The sting across Simone Carter's face echoed through the marble foyer like a gunshot. The sound hung in the air, mixing with the shocked gasps from the dinner guests who had witnessed the unthinkable. "How dare you stand there acting like you belong here?" Patricia Hayes snarled, her manicured hand still raised from the slap. "David told me about you people trying to take advantage. I don't know what cleaning service sent you, but this is completely inappropriate." Simone stood frozen, her caramel-colored cheek burning red where Patricia's hand had connected. The woman who had just assaulted her was everything Simone wasn't: blonde, pale, and apparently convinced that a black woman in an elegant emerald dress couldn't possibly belong in this house. This house. The house Simone had picked out. The house she had decorated with careful attention to every detail. The house where she had planned to grow old with David. David. Her husband of 8 years stood 3 feet away, his face pale as winter snow. Their dinner guests, his colleagues from the law firm, stared in horror. Mrs. Dorothy King, their elderly neighbor, clutched her pearls and whispered, "Sweet Jesus." But David said nothing. "I said get out," Patricia continued, stepping closer to Simone. "I don't care if David felt sorry for you or whatever charity case this is supposed to be. This dinner is important for his career and I won't have." "Trish, stop." David's voice finally cut through the chaos, but it was weak, uncertain. Not the voice of a man defending his wife. Not the voice of the man who had promised to love and honor her. Simone looked at her husband, really looked at him. The guilt written across his face told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity. This was David's mistress standing in their home, believing she had the right to be here. Believing she had the right to put her hands on David's wife. The dinner guests began murmuring among themselves. Mrs. King stepped forward, her weathered brown face twisted with indignation. "David Carter, what in the Lord's name is going on in this house?" "It's not what it looks like," David stammered, but his eyes couldn't meet Simone's. Simone felt something shift inside her chest. Not break, shift. Like a bone that had been out of place suddenly snapping back into alignment. The woman who had built a successful marketing career from nothing, who had put David through law school, who had stood by him through every struggle, was still there. She had just been reminded of who she was. "You're right," Simone said quietly, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "This is not what it looks like." She turned to face Patricia directly, noting how the woman's confidence wavered when Simone didn't cower. "What this looks like is a woman who just assaulted someone in their own home. What this looks like is someone who's about to learn a very expensive lesson about assumptions." Patricia's perfectly glossed lips parted in confusion. "Your own home? David, what is she talking about?" The silence stretched like a taut wire. David opened and closed his mouth like a fish gasping for air. "David," Simone said, her voice deadly calm, "tell your guest who I am." Another silence. Another moment of David's cowardice on full display. Simone nodded slowly as if David had answered a question she'd been carrying for months. "I see." She walked to the mahogany side table where she kept her keys and picked them up with steady hands. Then she faced the room full of people who had witnessed her humiliation. "For those who don't know," she said, her voice clear and strong, "my name is Simone Carter. I am David's wife. This is my home. My name is on the deed, the mortgage, and every utility bill. And that woman just assaulted me in my own living room." Patricia's face went white. David looked like he might vomit. "Now, if you'll excuse me," Simone continued, "I have some phone calls to make." She walked toward the front door, her heels clicking against the marble with each measured step. Behind her, she could hear the explosion of voices, Mrs. King's sharp words to David, the gasps from the dinner guests, Patricia's shrill attempts to defend herself. But Simone didn't turn around. She had work to do. Simone's hands trembled as she sat in her car outside David's parents' house. The porch light cast a warm glow over the familiar blue shutters, and she could see Gloria Carter moving around in the kitchen through the window. Even at 9 o'clock at night, David's mother was probably cleaning up after dinner, just like she had every night for the past 35 years. The passenger door opened, and Gloria slid into the seat beside her. At 58, Gloria Carter was a force of nature wrapped in 5 feet 4 inches of determination. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her reading glasses hung from a chain around her neck. "I saw you pull up 20 minutes ago," Gloria said gently. "I figured you'd come in when you were ready." Simone finally looked at her mother-in-law, and the tears she'd been holding back since leaving the house spilled over. "Mama G, I don't even know where to start." Gloria reached over and took Simone's hands in her own. Her palms were soft but strong, hands that had raised 4 children and taught 3rd grade for 30 years. Start wherever you need to, baby girl. The story poured out of Simone in broken pieces. The dinner party. Patricia's assumption. The slap. David's silence. By the time she finished, Gloria's jaw was set in a way that reminded Simone exactly where David had gotten his stubborn streak. That boy, Gloria said, shaking her head. I raised him better than this. I don't think he meant for it to happen like this, Simone said, though the words felt hollow. Simone Carter, don't you dare make excuses for my son's behavior. Gloria's voice carried the authority of a woman who had never tolerated nonsense from anyone. David is a grown man who made grown man choices. And now he's got to live with grown man consequences. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching Ronnie Carter through the kitchen window as he washed dishes. David's father moved with the careful precision of a man who had spent 40 years working with his hands. You know, Gloria said, when David first brought you home, I thought to myself, that girl's got steel in her spine. You were working 2 jobs and going to school, helping David study for the bar exam, and you never once complained. Not once. Simone wiped her eyes with the tissue Gloria handed her. I felt like I was building something. Like we were building something together. You built that man into someone successful. You supported his dreams, helped him get where he is today. And now he wants to act like he got there all by himself. Gloria clicked her tongue in disapproval. Some people, they get a little success and forget where they came from. Forget who was standing beside them when they had nothing. What am I supposed to do now? Gloria turned to face her fully. What did your grandmother used to tell you about playing chess? Simone smiled despite her tears. Grandma Evelyn had taught her chess when she was 7 years old, and the lessons had stuck. She said don't make moves when you're angry. Angry moves are sloppy moves. That's right. And what else? The person who thinks 3 steps ahead wins the game. Gloria nodded approvingly. Your grandmother was a smart woman. So I'm going to ask you, what do you want the end of this story to look like? Simone thought about it. What did she want? She wanted David to understand what he had lost. She wanted Patricia to understand that actions have consequences. She wanted to walk away from this mess with her dignity intact and her future secure. I want them to regret what they did, she said finally. I want them to understand exactly what they threw away. And I want to make sure I'm protected, financially, legally, everything. Good girl. Gloria smiled, and for the first time all evening, Simone felt like she could breathe. Now, let me tell you what we're going to do. The next morning, Simone sat in the upscale cafe downtown, watching Jasmine Brooks navigate through the crowded tables with 2 large coffee cups and a manila folder tucked under her arm. Jasmine had been Simone's best friend since college, and if anyone could help her navigate the digital side of what was about to happen, it was the woman who had built 3 successful social media campaigns from scratch. Okay, Jasmine said, sliding into the booth across from her. I've been up since 5 o'clock doing research, and girl, we are about to handle this situation properly. Simone accepted the coffee gratefully. She barely slept, spending most of the night staring at the ceiling in the guest room at Gloria's house. What did you find? Jasmine opened the folder and spread several printed pages across the table. First things first, your legal position is strong. Georgia is an equitable distribution state, and since you've been married 8 years, you're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage. That includes the house, David's 401k, his partnership stake in the law firm, everything. Partnership stake? Oh honey, yes. David made partner 6 months ago. Did he not tell you? Jasmine's eyebrows rose when she saw Simone's shocked expression. Okay, we're adding that to the list of things to address. Simone felt another piece of her marriage crumble away. David had made partner. Something they'd been working toward for years, and he hadn't even told her. Second, Jasmine continued, I did some digging on Patricia Hayes. She's been posting about David on her private Instagram for months. Pictures of them at restaurants, trips to Savannah, even some shots inside your house when you were out of town for work. The digital evidence is extensive. Simone's stomach twisted. She's been in our house? Multiple times based on the timestamps. But here's the thing, she's been sloppy about it. Posted a picture last week of them in your kitchen, and you can see your wedding photos in the background. Another one from your bedroom where your diploma is visible on the wall. Why would she do that? Jasmine shrugged. Some women like to mark their territory, even when the territory isn't legally theirs. Works in our favor now. What about the assault last night? That's where things get interesting. Jasmine pulled out her phone and showed Simone a series of screenshots. Mrs. King, your neighbor, she's sharper than you think. She recorded the whole thing on her phone. Simone stared at the screen. There she was, elegant in her emerald dress, being slapped by a woman who clearly didn't belong in the house. The audio was clear enough to hear Patricia's assumptions, her commands for Simone to leave, and most importantly, David's failure to defend his wife. "Mrs. King sent this to me this morning," Jasmine explained. "Said she wanted to make sure you had evidence of what happened. That woman has been watching out for you. I can't believe she recorded it." "Believe it? And guess what else? 3 of David's colleagues who were there last night have already reached out to me on LinkedIn. Seems word is spreading about what happened, and it's not making David look good in professional circles." Simone sipped her coffee, processing this information. "What's our next move?" "Well, first you need a good lawyer. I've got 3 recommendations, all women, all with excellent track records in high-asset divorces. Second, we document everything, every asset, every account, every piece of property. Third, we control the narrative." "Control the narrative?" Jasmine grinned, and Simone recognized the look. It was the same expression Jasmine got when she was about to launch a particularly brilliant marketing campaign. "Honey, I've built brands from nothing and destroyed reputations with a few well-placed posts. We're not going to blast this all over social media like messy teenagers. We're going to be strategic, professional, and devastating." They spent the next hour going through Jasmine's research. Bank statements that Simone had access to as a joint account holder. Property records showing Simone's name on major purchases. Email threads between David and Patricia that Jasmine had found through some creative searching. "How did you get access to his emails?" "He's still logged into the iPad you bought him for Christmas. The one he never uses because he prefers his laptop." Jasmine's smile was wicked. Men are terrible at digital security. By the time they left the cafe, Simone had a clear picture of her situation. Legally, she was in a strong position. Financially, she was entitled to far more than she'd realized. And digitally, she had evidence of everything. "One more thing," Jasmine said as they walked to their cars. "I think we should bring your mother-in-law into this planning. Gloria Carter doesn't play games, and David's going to have a much harder time spinning this if his own mother is on your side." Simone nodded. "Mama G is already on my side. She's the one who told me to think 3 steps ahead." "Then it sounds like David's about to find out what happens when you underestimate the women in your life." Attorney Nina Patterson's office was everything Simone had hoped for: professional, intimidating, and filled with the kind of awards and certifications that spoke to serious competence. At 40, Nina had already made a name for herself representing high-net-worth women in complex divorce cases, and her reputation for thoroughness was legendary. "Mrs. Carter," Nina said, settling behind her mahogany desk, "I've reviewed the materials your friend sent over, and I have to say, your husband has made some remarkably poor decisions." Simone sat straight in the leather chair, Gloria beside her for moral support. They decided that Gloria's presence would send a clear message. This wasn't just about a marriage falling apart. This was about a family that was done tolerating disrespect. "Walk me through what we're looking at legally," Simone said. Nina opened a thick file and spread several documents across her desk. "First, the assault. We have video evidence of Ms. Hayes striking you in your own home, along with audio of her verbal harassment. That's battery and potentially criminal trespass, depending on how we want to pursue it." "Criminal charges?" "It's an option. But let's talk about the civil implications first." Nina pulled out a highlighted document. "Georgia law is very clear about adultery and its impact on divorce settlements. Your husband's affair, combined with his failure to defend you from physical assault, creates what we call fault-based grounds for divorce." Gloria leaned forward. "What does that mean in practical terms?" "It means Mrs. Carter is entitled to more than the standard 50-50 split. We can argue for enhanced compensation due to David's misconduct, his secret financial gains, like the partnership he didn't disclose, and the emotional distress caused by his actions." Nina turned to another page. "Speaking of undisclosed assets, your husband's partnership stake in Freeman, Carter and Associates is worth approximately $1.2 million. As his spouse, you're entitled to half of that equity." Simone felt her breath catch. $600,000? Minimum. But given the circumstances, we can argue for more. Nina smiled, and it reminded Simone of a shark scenting blood in the water. "Your husband also has a 401k worth approximately $400,000, a life insurance policy worth $200,000, and of course the house, which is valued at $800,000. "I had no idea we had accumulated so much," Simone admitted. "Most spouses don't. But you've been married 8 years and you've both been working. More importantly, you supported him while he built his career. The courts recognized that contribution. Nina pulled out another document. Now let's talk about Ms. Hayes. What about her? She has a real estate license, which means she's held to certain professional standards. Assault charges could impact her ability to maintain that license. She also has a social media presence where she's been posting about an affair with a married man, using photos taken inside his marital home. That speaks to character and judgment. Gloria nodded approvingly. I like this lawyer. Nina continued, here's what I recommend. We file for divorce on fault-based grounds, citing adultery and David's failure to protect you from assault. We seek enhanced distribution of marital assets, spousal support and attorney's fees. Simultaneously, we file assault charges against Ms. Hayes and explore whether her real estate board needs to be made aware of her conduct. How long will this take? If David wants to fight it, we could be looking at 6 months to a year. But my guess is that once he understands the full scope of what he's facing, he'll want to settle quickly. Nina leaned back in her chair. Men like your husband, they're used to controlling the narrative. They don't like it when the consequences of their actions become public. What about the video from last night? That's our nuclear option. We don't lead with it, but we make sure David and his lawyer know we have it. Sometimes the threat of public humiliation is more powerful than the actual exposure. Simone looked at Gloria, who nodded encouragingly. What do I need to do? For now, document everything. Don't confront David directly. Let me handle all communication with him and his attorney. Continue staying at your mother-in-law's house, and don't sign anything David might ask you to sign. Nina handed her a business card. Call me if he tries to contact you directly. From this point forward, everything goes through legal channels. As they prepared to leave, Nina added, Mrs. Carter, I want you to understand something. You have all the power in this situation. Your husband destroyed his marriage for a woman who assaulted you in your own home. The courts don't look kindly on that kind of behavior, and neither do professional communities. You're going to be fine. Walking out of the office, Simone felt something she hadn't experienced in months, confidence. For the first time since this nightmare began, she wasn't just reacting to what David and Patricia had done. She was taking control. How do you feel? Gloria asked as they reached the car. Like I'm about to remind some people exactly who they're dealing with, Simone replied. David was waiting on his parents' porch when Simone and Gloria returned from the attorney's office. He looked like he hadn't slept, his usually perfect hair disheveled and his expensive suit wrinkled. When he saw them approaching, he stood up from the porch swing with the kind of desperate energy that suggested he'd been rehearsing this conversation. Simone, please, he said, stepping toward them. We need to talk. Gloria moved slightly in front of Simone, and even at her smaller stature, her presence was formidable. David Carter, what are you doing at my house? Mom, please. I need to talk to my wife. Your wife? Gloria's voice could have cut glass. Funny how you remembered she was your wife today, considering you forgot that fact last night when your mistress was slapping her in her own home. David flinched. It's not what you think. Trish didn't know. Trish didn't know what exactly? Simone stepped around Gloria, finally finding her voice. That you were married? That the house she was playing hostess in belonged to your wife? That she had no right to put her hands on anyone, let alone someone in their own home? She thought you were, she didn't realize. David's words died under Simone's steady gaze. She thought I was what, David? Say it. The silence stretched between them. Behind David, Simone could see Ronnie Carter watching from the kitchen window, his face a mask of disappointment. I've been calling you all day, David said finally. Your phone goes straight to voicemail. That's because I don't want to talk to you. Simone, I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through this together. Last night was just a misunderstanding that got out of hand. Simone felt a laugh bubble up from somewhere deep in her chest. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh that comes when someone says something so ridiculous that your brain can't process it any other way. A misunderstanding? She repeated. David, your mistress slapped me in our house and told me I didn't belong there. You stood there and watched it happen. Then you let her continue to believe she had the right to tell me to leave my own home. What part of that was a misunderstanding? I was shocked. I didn't know how to handle the situation. You didn't know how to say, this is my wife? You didn't know how to say, don't touch her? You didn't know how to ask your girlfriend to leave our house. Simone's voice rose with each question. Or maybe the misunderstanding is that you forgot to mention to Patricia that you're married. Did you forget to mention that when you were bringing her to our home? When you were posting pictures together on social media? David's face went pale. You saw the pictures? I saw everything, David. The restaurants, the trips, the photos in our bedroom. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? It's not what it looks like. Stop. Simone held up her hand. Just stop. I'm not going to stand here and listen to you minimize what you've done. I'm not going to let you gaslight me into believing that 8 months of an affair is a misunderstanding. 8 months? Gloria's voice was deadly quiet. You've been cheating on this girl for 8 months? David couldn't meet his mother's eyes. Mom, it's complicated. No, it's not complicated, Gloria snapped. It's simple. You made a choice to betray your wife. You made a choice to bring another woman into the home your wife created. You made a choice to stand there like a coward while that woman put her hands on the person you promised to love and protect. I love Simone, David said desperately. I made a mistake, but I love her. You have a funny way of showing love, Simone said. Here's what's going to happen, David. My attorney will be in touch with you tomorrow. All communication goes through legal channels now. You don't call me, you don't come to your parents' house looking for me, and you definitely don't show up at my workplace. Your attorney? David's voice cracked. Simone, you don't need an attorney. We can work this out ourselves. The time for working things out ourselves was before you started sleeping with someone else. The time for working things out ourselves was before you made partner and didn't tell me. The time for working things out ourselves was before you let another woman assault me in our home. You made partner? Gloria stared at her son in disbelief. When? 6 months ago, Simone answered when David remained silent. Apparently it wasn't important enough to share with his wife. Ronnie Carter appeared in the doorway, his weathered face etched with disappointment. Son, I think you need to leave. Dad. I said leave. You've embarrassed yourself and this family enough for one day. David looked around at the 3 people who had always been in his corner, searching for any sign of support. Finding none, he pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. I just sent Trish a message telling her to stay away from you, he said as if this was some kind of peace offering. She won't bother you again. Too late for that, Simone said. Your girlfriend is going to learn that actions have consequences. And so are you. As David walked to his car, his shoulders slumped in defeat, Simone felt the first stirring of something that might eventually become peace. Not forgiveness, not yet. But the quiet satisfaction of knowing that she was no longer the only one whose life was about to change dramatically. The law firm of Freeman, Carter and Associates occupied 3 floors of a prestigious downtown building, its marble lobby and mahogany paneling designed to project success and stability. Simone had been there countless times over the years, Christmas parties, summer picnics, celebration dinners when David made senior associate. She'd never imagined she'd be walking through those doors as an adversary. But that's exactly what she was doing on Wednesday morning, carrying a leather portfolio that contained enough documentation to end more than just her marriage. Mrs. Carter, the receptionist said with surprise. I wasn't expecting you today. David's in court this morning. I'm not here to see David, Simone replied smoothly. I have an appointment with Mr. Freeman. Richard Freeman, the senior partner, had founded the firm 30 years ago and built it into one of Atlanta's most respected legal practices. He was also the man who had personally recommended David for partnership, which made this conversation particularly important. Simone, Mr. Freeman said as she entered his corner office. This is unexpected. Please sit down. At 62, Richard Freeman carried himself with the dignity of a man who had built something lasting. His office walls were covered with photographs of him with judges, politicians, and business leaders, a testament to the connections that made his firm successful. Mr. Freeman, I appreciate you seeing me on short notice, Simone began. I'm here because I believe you have a right to know about some recent events that could impact the firm's reputation. This is about what happened at the dinner party Monday night? Simone wasn't surprised that he'd already heard. The legal community in Atlanta was smaller than most people realized, and gossip traveled fast. Partially yes. But it's also about the months of conduct that led up to Monday night. Simone opened her portfolio and placed a printed document on his desk. This is a timeline of David's affair with Patricia Hayes, including dates, locations and photographic evidence. Mr. Freeman's eyebrows rose as he scanned the document. Simone, I'm not sure this is appropriate. Please look at page 3, she interrupted gently. Page 3 contains screenshots of Patricia's social media posts, including several photos taken inside David and Simone's home during times when Simone was traveling for work. But more importantly, It contained photos of David and Patricia at the firm's client appreciation event 3 months ago, an event where Patricia had been introduced as David's girlfriend to potential clients. He brought her to firm events? Mr. Freeman's voice was carefully controlled. Multiple events, according to these photos. She's been posting about their relationship publicly for months, using photos that include firm logos and client information visible in the background. Mr. Freeman continued reading, his expression growing more serious with each page. When he reached the section about Monday night's dinner party, he removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. The dinner Monday night was for the Henderson account, wasn't it? Simone asked. The pharmaceutical company that's been considering the firm for their upcoming FDA compliance work? Yes. And 3 of their executives witnessed David's mistress assault his wife in his home, then watched David fail to defend his wife or take control of the situation? Mr. Freeman was quiet for a long moment. What do you want from me, Simone? I want you to understand that this isn't just a personal matter anymore. David's conduct has created liability issues for the firm. His girlfriend has been posting about their relationship using photos that could compromise client confidentiality. His personal life is affecting his professional judgment, and potential clients have witnessed behavior that reflects poorly on the firm's values. She placed another document on his desk. This is a letter from my attorney, outlining the legal implications of David's conduct and the firm's potential exposure. We're not seeking damages from the firm, but we wanted you to be fully informed before making any decisions about David's future here. This is very thorough, Mr. Freeman said after reading the letter. I spent 8 years supporting David's career. I know how important the firm's reputation is, and I know how much you've invested in building something that matters. I don't want to see that destroyed because one partner forgot his obligations, to his wife, to his profession, and to his colleagues. Mr. Freeman stood and walked to his window, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. I've known David for 6 years. I thought he had better judgment than this. So did I. What are your plans going forward? I'm filing for divorce. Patricia Hayes will be facing assault charges. Beyond that, I just want to rebuild my life without the drama David has created. When Mr. Freeman turned back to her, his expression was that of a man who had made a difficult decision. I want you to know that David's partnership is being reviewed. This kind of conduct, the poor judgment, the potential client confidentiality issues, the public nature of his personal problems, it's not what we expect from our partners. I understand. I also want you to know that the firm's partnership agreement includes a morality clause. Partners who engage in conduct that brings discredit to the firm can have their partnership terminated. Simone nodded. I thought you should be aware of all the facts before making any decisions. As she prepared to leave, Mr. Freeman added, Simone, for what it's worth, I'm sorry this happened to you. You've always conducted yourself with class, and you deserved better from David. Walking out of the building, Simone felt the weight of another piece falling into place. David had spent years building his career, and now that career was at risk because he'd forgotten that professional success meant nothing without personal integrity. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. How did it go? Simone typed back, David's about to learn what it means to lose everything that matters. Patricia Hayes was having what she thought was a productive Thursday morning when her phone rang with a call that would change everything. She was sitting in her pristine real estate office, scrolling through luxury property listings and planning her next social media post about her relationship with David, when her assistant knocked on the door. Patricia, there's a police officer here to see you. Officer Janet Murphy was a 20-year veteran of the Atlanta Police Department who had seen enough domestic situations to recognize when someone was about to have their world turned upside down. She stood in Patricia's doorway with the kind of professional courtesy that came before delivering devastating news. Ms. Hayes, I need to speak with you about an incident that occurred Monday evening at 1247 Maple Ridge Drive. Patricia's stomach dropped, but she maintained her composure. After all, she was used to difficult conversations in real estate. I'm not sure what you're referring to, officer. Ma'am, we have video evidence of you assaulting Mrs. Simone Carter in her home. I'm here to inform you that charges have been filed against you for battery and criminal trespass. The words hit Patricia like a physical blow. Assault? That's ridiculous. There must be some mistake. Officer Murphy pulled out a tablet and showed Patricia the video Mrs. King had recorded. There was no mistaking what had happened. Patricia slapping Simone, Patricia ordering Simone to leave her own home, Patricia's assumptions about who belonged where. As you can see, the evidence is clear. You struck Mrs. Carter and verbally threatened her while trespassing in her home. Trespassing? David invited me. David Carter may have invited you, but the home belongs to both Mr. and Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Carter did not consent to your presence, and you had no legal right to be there, much less to put your hands on her. Patricia's mind raced. This couldn't be happening. David had assured her that his marriage was over, that Simone was just hanging around for financial reasons. He'd made it sound like Simone was the intruder, not her. Ma'am, I need you to come with me to the station for processing. Processing? What does that mean? You're being arrested for battery and criminal trespass. You have the right to remain silent. As Officer Murphy read Patricia her rights, she could see her colleagues and clients in the real estate office staring through the glass walls. Her carefully cultivated image as a successful, professional woman was crumbling in real time. Meanwhile, across town, Simone was having a very different kind of conversation. She was sitting in the office of the Georgia Real Estate Commission with investigator Robert Chin, discussing Patricia's professional conduct. Mrs. Carter, thank you for bringing this to our attention, Mr. Chin said, reviewing the file Simone had provided. The evidence you've submitted raises serious concerns about Ms. Hayes' professional judgment and character. I thought the commission should be aware of the situation. Absolutely. Real estate agents are held to high ethical standards, and this kind of behavior, the assault, the public documentation of an affair, the poor judgment, it all speaks to character issues that impact her fitness to hold a license. Mr. Chin showed Simone a printout of Patricia's Instagram posts. These posts show her inside a married couple's home without the wife's consent, essentially using someone else's property to promote her romantic relationship. That's a violation of our ethics code regarding respect for property and professional boundaries. What happens next? We'll be opening a formal investigation. Depending on our findings, Ms. Hayes could face sanctions ranging from a reprimand to license suspension or revocation. While Patricia was being fingerprinted at the police station and Simone was filing her complaint with the Real Estate Commission, David was having his own crisis at the law firm. Mr. Freeman had called him into the conference room for what David assumed would be a routine partnership meeting. Instead, he found himself facing the firm's entire executive committee. David, Mr. Freeman began, we need to discuss the events of Monday evening and their impact on the firm. Mr. Freeman, I know the situation looks bad, but the situation doesn't just look bad, David. It is bad. Another partner, Sarah Williams, slid a folder across the table. We've lost the Henderson account. They've decided to go with another firm after what their executives witnessed at your dinner party. David's face went white. The Henderson account was worth over $2 million annually. Furthermore, Mr. Freeman continued, we've received a detailed report about your conduct over the past 8 months. Bringing your mistress to firm events, allowing her to post photos that could compromise client confidentiality, and demonstrating the kind of poor judgment that reflects badly on all of us. I can fix this. How exactly do you plan to fix the fact that your girlfriend is being arrested for assaulting your wife? How do you plan to fix the fact that potential clients watched you fail to protect your wife in your own home? Sarah's voice was ice cold. How do you plan to fix the reputation damage to this firm? David sat in stunned silence as the partners outlined the consequences of his choices. His partnership was being reviewed. His cases were being reassigned. His office was being relocated to the basement level until further notice. This is temporary, right? He asked desperately. Once the divorce is final, once things settle down. David, Mr. Freeman said sadly, I've been practicing law for 30 years. I've seen careers destroyed by poor personal decisions, and I've seen the damage those decisions can do to firms like ours. Right now, you're a liability we can't afford. By the end of Thursday, Patricia was out on bail but facing criminal charges and a professional investigation. David was essentially demoted and under review at his firm. And Simone was at home with Gloria, feeling something she hadn't experienced in months, peace. How do you feel? Gloria asked as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. Like justice isn't just something that happens in courtrooms, Simone replied. Sometimes it happens when people face the real consequences of their choices. Friday morning brought the kind of chaos that David Carter had never imagined possible. He woke up on the couch in his law firm office, the basement office he'd been moved to as part of his temporary review, to find 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The first call he returned was to his criminal defense attorney. David, we have a problem, Attorney James Morrison said without preamble. The district attorney's office called. They're considering charging you as an accessory to assault. Accessory? I didn't touch anyone. You facilitated it. You brought your mistress to your marital home, failed to inform her that Simone was your wife, and then failed to protect your wife when she was assaulted. In Georgia, that can constitute criminal facilitation. David sank into his chair, surrounded by the boxes of case files that had been moved down from his former corner office. What does that mean? It means you could be facing criminal charges alongside Patricia. It means this situation just got significantly worse. While David was learning about his potential criminal liability, Patricia was discovering that Thursday's arrest was only the beginning of her problems. She was sitting in her attorney's office, staring at a stack of documents that represented the complete unraveling of her professional life. The Real Estate Commission has suspended your license pending investigation, her attorney explained. The assault charges alone would be enough, but they're also investigating your social media posts and your conduct regarding the Carter property. What do you mean? You posted photos from inside their home without Mrs. Carter's consent. You essentially used someone else's private property to promote your personal brand. That's a serious ethics violation. Patricia's phone had been ringing nonstop since the arrest. Some calls were from concerned clients, others from gossip-hungry colleagues. But the call that broke her was from her biggest client, a developer who had been planning to list 50 luxury condos with her agency. Patricia, I've been following the news about your situation, the developer said, his voice formal and distant. Given the circumstances, we've decided to go with another agent. Mr. Rodriguez, please, this is all a misunderstanding. Is it a misunderstanding that you were arrested for assault? Is it a misunderstanding that you're facing ethics violations with the Real Estate Commission? I can't have my properties represented by someone with this kind of controversy. One by one, Patricia's clients were withdrawing their listings. Her professional reputation, built over 5 years of careful networking and strategic social media presence, was crumbling in real time. Meanwhile, Simone was having the opposite experience. She was sitting in the bright conference room of Davidson Marketing Group, the firm where she'd worked for 6 years, surrounded by colleagues who had become something more than professional acquaintances. Simone, her boss, Michelle Davidson, said, "I want you to know that everyone here supports you completely. What you've been going through is unconscionable, and we're impressed by how you've handled it." "Thank you. I know the situation has been dramatic. Actually, that's what we wanted to talk to you about." Michelle smiled, and Simone recognized the expression she got when she was about to offer something significant. "We've been watching how you've managed this crisis, the strategic thinking, the careful documentation, the way you've controlled the narrative without being vindictive or unprofessional." Simone waited, unsure where this was going. "We want to offer you the position of Senior Vice President of Crisis Management. It's a new department we're creating, specifically for helping clients navigate reputation challenges and strategic communications during difficult periods." Simone felt her breath catch. A promotion? A significant promotion with a significant raise. 50% increase in salary, plus equity in the firm. Michelle leaned forward. "Simone, you've just demonstrated skills that most people spend years learning. You've shown that you can think strategically under pressure, build coalitions, gather evidence, and execute a plan that protects your interests while maintaining your integrity." I don't know what to say. Say yes. You've earned this, and frankly, we need someone with your abilities. That afternoon, Simone met with Nina Patterson to review the latest developments in her divorce case. "David's attorney called this morning," Nina said, sliding a document across her desk. "They want to settle." "Already?" "Apparently, David's situation has become untenable. He's facing potential criminal charges, his partnership is under review, he's lost major clients, and his mistress is dealing with her own legal problems. His attorney strongly recommended that he settle quickly and quietly." Simone reviewed the settlement offer. David was proposing to give her 60% of all marital assets, including 70% of his partnership stake, full ownership of the house, and spousal support for 5 years. "It's a good offer," Nina said. "Better than we might have gotten if this had gone to trial." What changed his mind? Reality. David finally understands that he's not in control of this situation. His choices have consequences, and those consequences are affecting every aspect of his life. Nina smiled. Sometimes the threat of total destruction is more effective than actual destruction. What about Patricia? She's facing criminal charges that could result in jail time, her real estate license has been suspended, and she's lost most of her clients. She's also being sued by several clients for breach of contract. Her attorney has indicated that she wants to plead guilty to the assault charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. As Simone drove home to Gloria's house that evening, She reflected on how dramatically her life had changed in just 4 days. Monday she had been a woman whose husband was cheating on her. Today she was a woman who had successfully defended her dignity, protected her interests, and built a stronger future for herself. When she pulled into the driveway, she found Gloria and Ronnie sitting on the porch with a bottle of wine and 3 glasses. "How did today go?" Gloria asked. "I got a promotion, David wants to settle the divorce, and Patricia is probably going to jail." Simone accepted the glass of wine Gloria offered her. "I think we can officially say that justice has been served." "No," Gloria said, raising her glass. "Justice is just the beginning. Now we celebrate you taking back your power." Monday morning, exactly 1 week after the dinner party that had changed everything, Simone Carter walked into the courthouse wearing a navy blue suit that conveyed both professionalism and quiet authority. She was no longer the woman who had been slapped in her own home while her husband watched. She was the woman who had turned that humiliation into empowerment, that betrayal into justice. The courthouse hallway was crowded with lawyers, defendants, and family members, but Simone moved through it with the confidence of someone who knew exactly why she was there and what she was going to accomplish. In conference room 3B, David sat across from his attorney, looking like a man who had aged years in the span of a week. His expensive suit couldn't hide the weight he'd lost, the dark circles under his eyes, or the defeated slump of his shoulders. When Simone entered the room with Nina Patterson, he couldn't meet her eyes. "Let's get this done," Nina said, placing a stack of documents on the table. The settlement had been negotiated over the weekend, but today was about making it official. David would give Simone 65% of all marital assets, including the house, most of his 401k, and 75% of his partnership stake in the law firm, if he still had a partnership stake by the end of the week. "David," his attorney said gently, "you need to sign each page where it's marked." As David worked his way through the papers, his hand shaking slightly with each signature, Simone felt something unexpected, not satisfaction exactly, but a deep sense of completion. She wasn't getting revenge. She was getting justice. "Simone," David said quietly when he finished signing, "I want you to know." "Don't." Her voice was calm but final. "We're done, David. There's nothing left to say." Across town, in a different courtroom, Patricia Hayes was facing her own reckoning. She stood before Judge Helen Rodriguez, flanked by her attorney and her parents, who had driven down from Macon after learning about their daughter's arrest. "Ms. Hayes," Judge Rodriguez said, reviewing the case file, "you've agreed to plead guilty to battery in the 3rd degree. Before I accept this plea, I want to make sure you understand what you're admitting to." "Yes, Your Honor," Patricia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're admitting that on Monday evening, you unlawfully struck Mrs. Simone Carter in her own home, after verbally threatening and intimidating her. You're admitting that you had no legal right to be in that home and no authority to ask Mrs. Carter to leave her own property." "Yes, Your Honor." "And you understand that Mrs. Carter is the legal owner of the property where this incident occurred, along with her husband?" Patricia's face flushed with shame. "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, studying Patricia with the kind of scrutiny that came from 20 years on the bench. "Ms. Hayes, I've read the police report, I've seen the video evidence, and I've reviewed your social media posts from the past 8 months. I have to ask, what were you thinking?" Patricia's attorney had prepared her for this question, but standing in front of the judge, she found herself answering honestly. "I wasn't thinking, Your Honor. I made assumptions based on prejudice and ignorance. I believed things that weren't true, and I acted in a way that was inexcusable. Mrs. Carter chose not to pursue the maximum charges against you, did you know that?" Patricia's eyes widened. "No, Your Honor. She could have pushed for criminal trespass, harassment, and other charges that would have resulted in significantly more jail time. Instead, she agreed to let you plead to a single battery charge. Do you know why?" "No, Your Honor. Because Mrs. Carter told the prosecutor that she believed in consequences, not revenge. She wanted you to face accountability for your actions, but she didn't want to destroy your life completely." Judge Rodriguez leaned forward. "That speaks to Mrs. Carter's character. Your actions speak to yours." The sentence was 6 months of probation, 120 hours of community service, anger management classes, and a mandatory donation to a women's shelter. Patricia would also be required to stay away from both David and Simone Carter permanently. "Ms. Hayes," Judge Rodriguez said as the hearing concluded, "I hope you use this experience to examine your assumptions about other people and your sense of entitlement. What happened in that house was not just assault, it was a manifestation of prejudice and privilege that has no place in our society. That afternoon, Simone was cleaning out her desk at the marketing firm, preparing to move into her new office as Senior Vice President of Crisis Management. Her colleagues had thrown her a small celebration, complete with a cake that read "New Beginnings" in elegant script. "I still can't believe how you handled all this," her colleague Janet said, helping her pack up her personal items. "Most people would have fallen apart." "Most people don't have a mother-in-law like Gloria Carter," Simone replied, carefully wrapping a photo of her and Gloria from last Christmas. "She taught me that dignity isn't something other people can take from you. It's something you choose to keep." As she loaded the last box into her car, Simone's phone rang. It was Nina Patterson. "Simone, I have an update on David's situation." "What's the news?" Freeman, Carter and Associates held their partnership meeting this morning. David's partnership has been terminated. They're allowing him to stay on as a senior associate, but his equity stake is gone, which means the settlement we negotiated is worth even more than we thought. "How much more?" "With David's partnership termination, you're now entitled to approximately $1.8 million in total assets, plus the house and ongoing spousal support. You've essentially tripled your net worth in 1 week." Simone sat in her car, processing this information. A week ago, she had been a betrayed wife with no idea how her marriage had fallen apart. Today, she was a newly promoted executive with complete financial independence and a future that was entirely her own to design. "Nina, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think I was too hard on them?" Nina was quiet for a moment. "Simone, you didn't destroy David's partnership. His poor judgment did. You didn't get Patricia arrested. Her decision to assault you did. You didn't create any of these consequences. You just refused to let other people's bad choices become your problem." That evening, Simone sat on Gloria's porch, watching the sunset and thinking about the week that had changed her life. Tomorrow she would start her new job. Next week she would move back into her house, the house that was now completely hers. In a month her divorce would be final. "How do you feel?" Gloria asked, settling into the chair beside her. "Like I'm finally myself again," Simone said. "Like I remember who I was before I spent 8 years trying to be the perfect wife to someone who didn't value what he had." "And what are you going to do with all that freedom?" Simone smiled, thinking about the new position, the financial security, the chance to help other people navigate their own crises with dignity and strategy. "I'm going to help other people learn what you taught me, that respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you demonstrate you deserve." 3 months later, Simone Carter stood in her newly renovated home office, looking out at the garden she had redesigned as part of reclaiming her space. The house felt different now, lighter, more peaceful, filled with the energy of someone who belonged there completely rather than someone who was trying to prove she deserved to be there. She had kept the good memories and changed everything else. David's study was now her home office. The formal dining room where the disaster had unfolded was now a bright art studio. The master bedroom had been completely redecorated in colors that made her happy rather than colors that coordinated with David's preferences. A knock at the front door interrupted her thoughts. When she opened it, she found Mrs. Dorothy King standing on her porch with a covered dish and a wide smile. "Mrs. King," Simone said, genuinely pleased to see her elderly neighbor. "Come in, please." "I brought you some of my famous peach cobbler," Mrs. King said, bustling into the foyer. "Thought you might like some comfort food after your first week in the new position." Simone's promotion had been even more successful than she'd imagined. In just 3 months, she had helped 5 different clients navigate reputation crises, using the same strategic thinking and careful planning that had served her so well in her personal situation. The firm had already given her a second raise and was considering expanding her department. "How are you settling in?" Mrs. King asked, looking around at the changes Simone had made. "It's starting to feel like home again," Simone said, leading her into the kitchen. "Different but home." "And how are you feeling about everything that happened?" Simone considered the question while she made tea. How was she feeling? The anger had faded months ago, replaced by something calmer and more sustainable, a deep appreciation for her own strength and the people who had supported her. "I feel grateful," she said finally. "I know that sounds strange given everything that happened, but I'm grateful that I learned who I really was when everything fell apart." Mrs. King nodded approvingly. "Sometimes the worst things that happen to us teach us the most important lessons." They were interrupted by another knock at the door. This time it was Jasmine, carrying a bottle of wine and a folder full of papers. "I hope you're ready for some excellent news," Jasmine said, setting the wine on the counter. "The crisis management department just got its biggest client yet, Henderson Pharmaceuticals." Simone stared at her best friend. The same Henderson that David's firm lost because of what happened at the dinner party? The very same. Apparently, they were so impressed with how you handled your own crisis that they want you to help them with their FDA compliance communications. Jasmine grinned. They specifically requested you by name. Mrs. King clapped her hands together in delight. Now that's what I call justice coming full circle. As the afternoon wore on, Gloria and Ronnie arrived for what had become their weekly dinner together. Simone had maintained her relationship with David's parents, who had made it clear that their loyalty was to the woman who had always treated them with love and respect, not to the son who had forgotten his values. Any word from David? Gloria asked as they sat down to dinner. His attorney sends updates through Nina when there are legal matters to resolve, but we don't have direct contact, Simone said. I heard he's working at a smaller firm now, trying to rebuild his reputation. And Patricia? Finished her community service last month. Her real estate license was officially revoked, but I heard she's working for her father's construction company now. Ronnie nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes people need to lose everything to figure out what actually matters. The important thing, Gloria said, is that you figured out what matters without losing yourself in the process. After dinner, as they sat on the porch watching the fireflies emerge in the twilight, Simone reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. 6 months ago, she had been a woman whose life was falling apart. Tonight, she was surrounded by people who loved her, in a home that was truly hers, with a career that challenged and fulfilled her. Simone, Gloria said quietly, I want you to know how proud I am of you. For surviving the divorce? For remembering who you were. A lot of people, when something like this happens, they either fall apart or they become bitter. You did neither. You became stronger. I had good teachers, Simone said, reaching over to squeeze Gloria's hand. As the evening wound down and her chosen family prepared to leave, Simone stood in her doorway watching them go. Tomorrow she would wake up in her own house and go to a job she loved, surrounded by colleagues who respected her abilities. She had financial security, professional success, and relationships built on mutual respect and genuine affection. More importantly, she had something that couldn't be taken away from her. The knowledge that she could handle whatever life brought her way. She had faced betrayal, humiliation, and injustice, and she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nina Patterson. David's final payment cleared. Officially, you're done with all legal matters. Congratulations on your new life. Simone typed back, thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this without you. As she prepared for bed in the master bedroom she had reclaimed and redesigned, Simone caught sight of herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was confident, peaceful, and genuinely happy. She had learned the most important lesson of her adult life, that respect, dignity, and happiness weren't things other people could give her or take away from her. They were things she created for herself through her choices, her actions, and her refusal to accept less than she deserved. 6 months ago, a woman had slapped her in her own home while her husband watched. Tonight, that same woman was unemployed and on probation, the husband was rebuilding his life from scratch, and Simone Carter was living exactly the life she had always deserved. Sometimes the best revenge really was living well.